I found the hotel charges by accident. Same place. Same room. 3 separate nights. She was in the kitchen when I saw it, barefoot, humming softly, the smell of her perfume still lingering in the hallway. When she smiled at me, she looked exactly like the woman I trusted with everything. And that's what scared me the most. It happened on a Tuesday night, the kind that feels harmless and ordinary. I was on the couch with her tablet, trying to order takeout because my phone was dead. She was in the bedroom getting changed after work, the soft click of her heels hitting the hardwood floor echoing down the hallway. I remember smiling to myself at the sound. I always did. There was something steady about her presence, confident, composed, feminine without trying too hard. She was 43, but she carried herself with that quiet elegance that made age irrelevant. The kind of woman who didn't need attention to command it. The food app glitched, so I backed out and accidentally opened her email. I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. It was just there, a receipt preview at the top of the screen. Grand Crescent Hotel. At first, it didn't mean anything. Then I saw the date. Last Thursday. My chest tightened slightly. She'd told me she was staying late at the firm that night. I remember because I'd fallen asleep waiting for her. I told myself it was probably a client booking. She worked with high-profile people. Luxury hotels weren't unusual in her world. But something made me tap it open. One night. King Suite. Paid in full. My heartbeat didn't spike. It slowed. Like my body was trying to conserve energy for something it didn't want to process. I told myself to close it. To respect her privacy. But my thumb hovered, then scrolled. 2 more receipts. Same hotel. Different dates. All within the last 2 months. The living room suddenly felt too quiet. From down the hallway, I heard the zipper of her dress slide down. Fabric brushing against skin. A soft exhale. Normal sounds. Familiar sounds. And yet, everything felt slightly off, like the room had tilted half a degree to the left. I stared at the screen, trying to make it make sense. Maybe it was work. Maybe she'd mentioned it and I'd forgotten. I was younger. Still building my career. Sometimes I worried I didn't fully belong in her polished world of conferences and private meetings. I hated that insecurity, the quiet voice that whispered I might not be enough for someone as accomplished as her. I closed the tablet before she walked in. When she stepped into the living room, she was barefoot now, wearing one of my old t-shirts and soft gray lounge pants. Her hair fell loosely over her shoulders, slightly tousled from pulling it out of its clip. She looked relaxed. Safe. Like home. Did you order? She asked, smiling as she crossed the room. I nodded, hoping my face didn't betray me. She sat beside me, close enough that our thighs touched. Her hand rested on my knee absent-mindedly, her thumb brushing back and forth in that slow, affectionate way she did when she thought I wasn't paying attention. Normally, that touch grounded me. Tonight, it made my stomach twist. I studied her profile quietly, the faint crease near her eyes when she smiled, the graceful curve of her neck, the calm confidence in her posture. She didn't look like someone hiding something. And that scared me more than if she did. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Relationships, especially ones like ours, needed trust. I didn't want to be the insecure younger guy doubting a strong, independent woman over a receipt. But as she leaned her head gently against my shoulder, sighing contentedly, I couldn't stop thinking about that hotel room. Same place. Same suite. 3 separate nights. And I had no idea why. I didn't bring it up that night. I told myself I needed sleep. That I needed clarity. That accusations thrown in the dark never land gently. But the next evening, the weight of it was still there, sitting heavy in my chest like something unfinished. She was at the kitchen counter, slicing lemons for sparkling water. The late sunlight poured through the windows, catching the gold bracelet around her wrist. She looked composed, like she always did. Effortlessly put together even in something simple, fitted jeans, a soft cream blouse with the sleeves rolled to her elbows. I watched her for a moment longer than usual. "Hey," I said finally, my voice steadier than I felt. "Can I ask you something?" She glanced up, offering that familiar half-smile. "Of course." I walked closer, leaning against the opposite side of the counter. Close enough to smell her perfume, something warm and subtle, like vanilla and cedarwood. Close enough that I could reach out and touch her hand. I didn't. "I saw a charge on the tablet yesterday," I said carefully. "From the Grand Crescent." Her knife paused mid-slice. It was small. Barely noticeable. But I saw it. Then she resumed cutting. "Oh. Yeah." I swallowed. "A few, actually." There it was, that half-second delay. The kind you'd miss if you weren't looking for it. She set the knife down, wiping her hand slowly with a towel before meeting my eyes. Calm. Controlled. "It was for a client," she said. "We needed a private meeting space." Her tone was smooth. Professional. I nodded, but my heart didn't follow. "A king suite?" I asked before I could stop myself. Her lips parted slightly, then pressed together. Not defensive. Just thoughtful. "It was the only one available," she replied. "You know how last-minute bookings can be." I did know that. It made sense. Logically. Emotionally, it didn't. Silence stretched between us, not sharp, but delicate, like glass that might crack if either of us pushed too hard. She walked around the counter then, closing the distance herself. Her fingers brushed my forearm lightly. "Why didn't you just ask me right away?" I let out a quiet breath. I didn't want to sound paranoid. Her expression softened at that. She stepped closer, resting her palm against my chest. I could feel the warmth of her hand through my t-shirt. Feel my heartbeat betraying me. "You're not paranoid," she said gently. "You're allowed to ask me things." But her eyes, they didn't hold mine for long. They flickered away, just for a second. That second stayed with me. She slid her arms around my waist then, hugging me. It was instinctive. Familiar. Her cheek rested against my shoulder, and I felt her exhale slowly, like she was trying to release tension I hadn't named. I wrapped my arms around her automatically. Usually, when we stood like that, everything felt simple. Solid. Tonight, my hands hesitated before settling at the small of her back. "I trust you," I murmured, and I meant it, or at least I wanted to. She tilted her head up, brushing a soft kiss against my jaw. "Innocent. Tender." "I know," she whispered. But as she pulled away and reached for the glasses, I couldn't ignore the quiet voice inside me. It wasn't what she said. It was what she didn't. And for the first time since we started dating, I felt like I was standing just outside a door she wasn't fully opening. I told myself to let it go. For 2 days, I tried. I went to work. I answered emails. I kissed her goodbye in the mornings and held her a little longer than usual at night. If she noticed, she didn't say anything. She moved through our apartment with the same calm rhythm, watering her plants, reading on the balcony, humming softly while she got ready for bed. But something inside me wouldn't settle. It wasn't jealousy. It was the not knowing. On Friday afternoon, I did something I never thought I would. I called the hotel. My hand trembled slightly as I stepped outside the office building, the cold air hitting my face. I almost hung up twice before someone answered. "Grand Crescent, how may I assist you?" I swallowed. "Hi. I'm just calling to confirm a reservation from last Thursday." It should be under. Saying her name out loud felt strange. Too intimate for a stranger to hear. There was a pause. The faint clicking of keys. "Yes, sir. I see the reservation." My throat tightened. Was it just one guest? Another pause. "It was booked for 2." For a second, the world around me dulled. The traffic noise. The wind. The distant chatter of people walking by. Everything sounded muffled, like I was underwater. "Thank you," I managed before ending the call. "Booked for 2." I stared at the black screen of my phone, my reflection looking back at me, younger than I felt in that moment. Smaller. Maybe it was business. Maybe the hotel automatically defaulted to 2 guests. Maybe, but my mind was already connecting pieces I didn't want connected. The late nights. The way she'd showered immediately after coming home one evening, saying she felt drained. The unfamiliar cologne I dismissed as someone brushing past her in a lobby. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't get a full breath. When I got home that evening, the apartment was quiet. She wasn't back yet. I walked into the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the indentation her body left in the pillows every night. This was our space. The lamp on her side table cast a warm glow. Her reading glasses rested neatly beside a half-finished novel. Everything looked exactly the same. But I didn't feel the same. I thought about the first time she'd told me she loved me, how hesitant she'd been, how carefully she'd said it, like she was offering something fragile. I'd admired that about her. The maturity. The depth. Now I wondered if that depth included parts of her I'd never truly known. The front door clicked open. Her footsteps were softer tonight, heels replaced by flats. She called my name lightly as she walked down the hallway. When she appeared in the doorway, she stopped. She saw it immediately. The way I was sitting. The way I didn't smile. Her shoulders straightened just slightly. Not defensive, but alert. "What's wrong?" she asked. I looked at her, really looked at her. The graceful way she held herself. The confidence that had always drawn me in. The faint worry now creasing her forehead. And I realized something painful. I didn't feel angry. I felt scared. Scared that I'd misjudged everything. Scared that I was just a chapter in her life, not the future. Was it really for work? I asked quietly. The room felt impossibly still. And in the silence before she answered, I knew my world was already shifting. Expand Keynote 4, 500 words, she set her bag down slowly by the door, like sudden movements might shatter something fragile between us. Then she walked into the bedroom, stopping a few feet in front of me. "Why are you asking me like that?" she said softly. I stood up, but the distance between us remained. "I called the hotel." The words felt heavy leaving my mouth. Her expression changed, not outrage, not fury. Just a flicker of something exposed. Vulnerability, maybe. Or disappointment. "You called them," she repeated, almost to herself. "They said the room was booked for 2. There it was. No yelling. No accusations. Just the truth, laid bare in the space between us. Her shoulders dropped slightly. The careful composure she carried so effortlessly every day seemed to loosen. "Yes," she said quietly. The confirmation hit harder than I expected. Even though I'd prepared for it. "Yes." My voice cracked despite my effort to stay steady. She stepped closer, but not close enough to touch me. "I wasn't there with a lover," she said, her tone firm but not defensive. "I was there with Daniel. Her ex-husband." The name felt like a door slamming somewhere deep inside me. "For what?" I asked. "To talk," she replied. "To end things properly." I let out a hollow laugh. "You were divorced 5 years ago." "I know." Her voice trembled slightly now. "But we never had closure. We signed papers. We separated assets. But emotionally, we never really finished." She wrapped her arms around herself, as if suddenly cold. "He reached out," she continued. "He said he needed to see me. To apologize. To talk about what we were. And she hesitated. I agreed. In a hotel room. I couldn't stop the edge in my voice. It was private, she said quickly. Neutral ground. I didn't want him in our home. I didn't want anyone from work seeing us. I ran a hand through my hair, pacing once across the room before stopping. Why didn't you tell me? That was the real question. The one that mattered. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't look away this time. Because I was afraid. Afraid of what? Of exactly this. She gestured between us. You thinking the worst. You feeling like you weren't enough. You already struggle with the age difference sometimes, I see it, even when you don't say it. Her words stung because they were true. I didn't sleep with him, she said firmly. I didn't kiss him. We talked. We argued. We cried. And I walked away knowing I don't love him anymore. She stepped closer now, slowly, giving me time to pull back if I wanted to. I love you, she whispered. Her hand reached for mine. I let her take it, but my fingers stayed loose in her grip. I needed to be sure, she continued. Not about you. About myself. About whether I was holding on to the past because it was familiar, or choosing you because you're who I want. I swallowed hard. And a tear slipped down her cheek, but her voice was steady. I'm choosing you. Silence filled the room again, thick, emotional, overwhelming. You should have told me, I said quietly. I know. Her thumb brushed lightly over my knuckles. I wasn't honest. And that's on me. There was no manipulation in her tone. No excuses. Just truth. And somehow, that hurt, but it also felt real. She stepped closer until our foreheads nearly touched. I never betrayed you, she whispered. But I was wrong to shut you out. I closed my eyes for a moment, feeling the warmth of her breath, the softness of her fingers holding mine. This wasn't the explosion I'd imagined. It was something quieter. More complicated. And somehow, more intimate than anger could ever be. That night, we went to bed without deciding anything. No dramatic ultimatums. No slammed doors. Just silence. She changed into her sleep shirt in the bathroom instead of in front of me like she usually did. It was a small shift, but I felt it. When she slid under the covers, she stayed on her side of the bed. I stayed on mine. The space between us felt wider than the mattress could account for. I lay on my back staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet rhythm of her breathing. Usually, I'd curl toward her without thinking, my arm draped around her waist, her back fitting naturally against my chest. She always slept warm. Soft. Steady. Tonight, I kept my hands to myself. It wasn't anger. It was processing. She hadn't cheated. Not physically. I believed her. But she had kept something from me, something that mattered. And the part that hurt the most wasn't the hotel room. It was that she hadn't trusted me with her uncertainty. Around midnight, I felt the mattress shift. Slowly. Carefully. Her hand brushed against mine in the dark. Not intentionally at first, just a graze of fingertips. Then it lingered. I didn't move. Her fingers curled slightly, testing the space between us. Are you awake? She whispered. Yeah. Her voice was softer than usual. Less composed. Can we talk? I turned onto my side to face her. Even in the dim light, I could see the outline of her features, the curve of her cheek, the faint crease between her brows. I'm not going anywhere, I said quietly. I just need to understand. She nodded, though the motion was barely visible. I was married for 16 years, she began. That kind of history doesn't disappear just because you sign a document. And when he called, it stirred something. Not love. Just memory. Her fingers slowly threaded through mine. I didn't meet him because I wanted him back, she continued. I met him because I needed to close that chapter without wondering what if 5 years from now. I swallowed. And where do I fit into that? Her grip tightened gently. You're not a chapter, she said. You're the future I'm scared of losing. There it was. Not fear of me being too young. Fear of her being too old. I see the way people look at us sometimes, she admitted. I know you pretend not to notice. But I do. And I worry that one day you'll wake up and realize you could have had someone your own age. Someone simpler. I shifted closer without thinking. Simpler doesn't mean better, I said. She let out a shaky breath, and before I knew it, she moved fully into my space, her forehead resting lightly against my chest. I hesitated only a second before wrapping my arm around her shoulders. Her body felt tense at first. Then she relaxed into me. I don't want to be someone you outgrow, she murmured. I brushed my fingers slowly through her hair, the strands soft against my skin. And I don't want to be someone you keep secrets from because you think I can't handle the truth. She nodded against me. The honesty didn't fix everything instantly. The hurt was still there. The doubt hadn't completely dissolved. But as we lay there, her hand resting over my heart, my chin resting gently on top of her head, the distance didn't feel as vast. We weren't broken. We were just learning how to be fully seen. And maybe that was harder than love itself. The days after that conversation felt fragile, like walking across thin ice, careful not to put too much weight in the wrong place. We weren't fighting. But we weren't completely okay either. She started leaving her phone face up on the coffee table. Her calendar notifications popped up freely when we were sitting together. Not in a dramatic, look how transparent I am way, just subtle. Intentional. I noticed. And I appreciated it. Still, one evening, as we sat side by side on the couch, the quiet tension returned. The TV was on, but neither of us was watching. Her knee rested against mine, warm and familiar, yet both of us seemed caught in our own thoughts. I muted the screen. We can't keep tiptoeing, I said gently. She turned toward me, tucking one leg beneath her. Her hair was pulled into a loose bun, soft strands falling around her face. She looked tired, not physically, but emotionally. I know, she replied. I faced her fully, our knees touching now. Close enough to feel the warmth of her skin through the thin fabric of her leggings. If you're choosing me, I said carefully, I need you to choose me completely. Not because I'm exciting or different. Not because I'm younger. But because you're certain. Her eyes shimmered slightly at that. I don't want to compete with your past, I continued. And I don't want to feel like you're preparing yourself for the day I leave. The words were harder to say than I expected. She reached for my hand slowly, almost hesitantly, like she was asking permission. When I didn't pull away, her fingers intertwined with mine. I wasn't unsure about you, she said softly. I was unsure about myself. I stayed quiet, letting her speak. When Daniel reached out, it didn't make me want him, she admitted. It made me question whether I had truly healed. And I didn't want to build a future with you while secretly carrying unfinished grief. Her thumb traced small circles against my palm, slow, grounding movements. I thought I could handle it alone, she continued. I've handled everything alone for years. Divorce. Career. Reinventing myself. I forgot that being with someone means letting them stand beside you, even in the messy parts. I felt something shift in my chest then. Not anger dissolving. But walls lowering. You don't have to protect me from your past, I said quietly. And you don't have to protect yourself from me leaving. She let out a small, breathy laugh. You say that so easily. It's not easy, I admitted. I'm scared too. Sometimes I wonder if I'll disappoint you. If one day you'll realize I'm still figuring life out. Her expression softened immediately. She lifted her free hand to my face, brushing her fingertips gently along my jaw. The touch was tender. Intentional. Her thumb lingered near my cheekbone. I've never needed you to be finished, she whispered. I just need you to be honest. I leaned into her touch without thinking. Then let's promise that, I said. No more handling things alone. No more protecting each other from imaginary futures. Her eyes searched mine for a long moment. Then she nodded. I'm choosing you, she said again, but this time, there was no hesitation in her voice. No lingering shadow behind it. Fully. I lifted her chin slightly, pressing a soft kiss to her cheek. Not urgent. Not desperate. Just steady. Her shoulders relaxed under my hand. And for the first time since I saw those hotel charges, the air between us felt clear again, not because the past disappeared, but because we had finally stopped hiding from it. Expand Keynote 7, 500 words, it didn't magically fix everything overnight. Trust doesn't reset like a password. But it began to feel natural again. A few weeks later, I realized something had shifted, not in a grand, cinematic way, but in the small, quiet rhythms of our life. She stopped moving cautiously around me. The subtle tension in her shoulders disappeared. Her laughter came easier again, full and unguarded, the way it used to when we first started dating. One evening, she invited me to a networking event downtown. Normally, those things made me feel like a kid sneaking into an adults-only room, all tailored suits and polished conversations. But when we walked in together, her hand slid confidently into mine. Not loosely. Not discreetly. Firm. Intentional. When someone asked who I was, she didn't hesitate. This is him, she said, smiling at me before turning back to them. The one I've been telling you about. There was pride in her voice. Not secrecy. Not explanation. Pride. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the younger guy trying to prove himself. I just felt like her partner. Later that night, we stood on the balcony of our apartment, city lights glowing below us. The air was cool, brushing gently against our skin. She stepped behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist, something she rarely did. I leaned back into her without thinking. You've been quiet tonight, she murmured against my shoulder. I was just thinking, I replied. Dangerous, she teased softly. I turned in her arms to face her. The light from inside the apartment framed her silhouette, the soft curve of her cheek, the familiar warmth in her eyes. About how close I came to letting my fear ruin this, I admitted. Her expression shifted, not to guilt, but to understanding. We both were afraid, she said. I reached up, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. My fingers lingered there, tracing lightly along her jaw. She closed her eyes for a second, leaning into the touch. I don't need you to be perfect, I said quietly. I just need you to let me in. She placed her hand over mine, holding it against her face. I don't want a safe choice, she whispered. I don't want something predictable. I want this. Even if it's complicated. The word complicated used to scare me. Now, it felt real. I pulled her closer, wrapping my arms fully around her waist. She fit against me like she always had, steady, warm, grounding. Her head rested against my chest, and I felt her exhale slowly, like she wasn't carrying the weight alone anymore. I'm not going anywhere, I said. She tilted her head up, searching my eyes to make sure I meant it. Then she leaned up and pressed a soft kiss to my cheek, lingering just a moment longer than usual. Not dramatic. Not desperate. Certain. We stayed there like that for a while, fingers intertwined, bodies close, the city humming quietly beneath us. The hotel charges had shaken us. But they had also forced us to choose each other consciously. Not out of excitement. Not out of fear. But out of clarity. And somehow, that felt stronger than blind trust ever could.